Mr. Mike Mudry from USA
Hello,
Mortgage.
Damien.
Mike, how are things today?
Never better.
What
Never better, my friend.
Are you a co-host or are you a regular guest? You
I'm
just show
I'm
up
a co-host.
here? You just come in all the time.
I just come in. Yes.
Yeah, because there's so many warm and loving comments we get about your warm and loving voice.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I didn't know that.
It sets the show apart.
Good. Yeah.
So we are going to talk today. We were just trying to figure out something that would be witty and charming, but informative. And I thought, we're getting a lot of questions, and that's kind of how we try to structure the shows to answer the questions that we get. Alfonso, you can back me up on this. I mean, we tend to get, there's only 99 questions, right? And each of those questions has 3 different answers, and we call them snappy retorts. But the purpose of the show, again, is to help people. So if we can just bring up the questions that we get in the marketplace on a regular basis, obviously, that's going to help people who might be thinking about those questions. It's logic.
Mm-hmm.
You get that?
Yep.
So
I get it.
We had a number of questions this week about the pre-approval process, the pre-qualification, the loan commitment, all of the things. And I know for a fact that there is widespread confusion about each of those pieces.
What a surprise.
Yeah. So first of all, let's just set out what are the 3 basic levels of loan approval?
Just basically what you said. If we use those 3 categories, a pre-qualification, which is different than a pre-approval,
right,
which is different than a loan commitment.
Okay, so
in that order, if we started with pre-qualification, that would be the very beginning process. If somebody is interested in buying a home and they just kind of want to know, hey, are all the fundamentals in place so I can actually do this?
And that's something that people who are just starting to think about whether they should even be in the market or not.
That's right.
And a pre-qualification is something that you are going to give. Is it a written document, and is it a result of a review of other documents, or is it just a verbal thing?
No, it could be a phone conversation. It could be a face-to-face meeting that I would have with an individual, where we would ascertain information, get a credit report, review certain things in the process,
right,
to make sure that we know what we're dealing with going forward.
And you do run the credit report.
Mm-hmm.
But, of course, you've got to be authorized by
That's right. We have to get authorization from the customer to do that, absolutely.
So how long does it take? If one of our listeners is thinking right now about, whether they want to be in this market or not, or they want to buy a house, and they want to know what they can afford, they want to know, how to get the process. That's what a
The pre-qualification process can be a very fast, quick process, I mean, I could do it in 15 minutes or less.
So just a phone conversation.
And pull a credit report. We can do it quickly. It depends on the timing of, how busy one is and how quickly I can return a phone call. But generally, it can be done very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But it's very important to make sure that everybody knows that a pre-qualification is not a loan approval of any kind or a loan commitment.
It's basically telling a borrower or a home buyer that if you are telling me that these are your facts, these are your numbers, this is your income.
That's right.
This is your credit score, even though you're going to verify that.
That's right.
This is your asset base, how much money you might have to put down.
Your debt, your everything.
Right. So just a general picture. Then
That's
you're
right.
going to give them, you're going to qualify them for X dollars of a mortgage. Is that
I will give them my blessing that they could proceed forward.
That's getting a little
heavy. What I would ask them to do is go to the
Mudry blessing, blessing of Mudry.
I would go to the pre-approval process at that point, which somebody can do before they even have selected a home.
Okay. So the next step is
the
pre-approval.
Next step would be
Let me jump in, Damien, real quick, though. This phone call that we're talking about making to Mike or someone like Mike for a pre-qualification has really helped, like a buyer, in my situation as a buyer agent, to get somebody off the ledge where they're looking at a home, they fall in love with it, and they're like, oh, we don't know if we can afford it. And I'll say, look, give Mike a call. In 15, 20-minute conversation, you're going to feel better and maybe be able to make that step forward.
So somebody might have seen a house or even online, on our website, servingstlouisrealty.com, or Zillow or something, right? And they might call and go, oh, I love this house, but I don't know if I can afford it.
Right. And the next step, I advise them to call right away. And it's really been instrumental and very helpful to get people to make that move forward. They didn't think they could make. They're not aware of the rates. They're not aware of the packages and the costs.
Right.
And when Mike enlightens them, they're able to move forward. And it's been very helpful.
Because after the pre-qualifying, they kind of know where they stand. So So what's the next step? So you've pre-qualified me,
right?
And now you've said, hey, Damien, I think that we'll be able to lend you this money based on
what
you
you've told
not
me.
having lied to me in
that's
the
right.
last 10 minutes. Okay.
Right. So then the next step is the approval process, the pre-approval process. We can also call it a to be determined. So somebody can come in and make application for a mortgage without a contract, without even having identified a property, just to get an idea of what their maybe maximum loan qualification might be.
Right.
And we can verify all the documentation, get the W-2s, pay stubs, tax returns, blah, 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 blah.
So that's like completing
the process.
Application.
Right, from the very beginning. And it's an important distinction because then all of that information is reviewed by an underwriter, and the actual pre-approval is signed by an underwriter, which is a huge distinction from a pre-qualification because that does not happen on a pre-qualification.
So a pre-qual is from a loan officer, an
Correct.
LO.
That's right.
And, except for you, of course, loan officers are salespeople, right? So they want to make a mortgage, right?
Well, we all want to help people buy a home.
I understand that, but
in the right fundamental way.
But a loan officer is going to help you understand your power.
That's right.
A pre-qual signed off by an underwriter
discuss the various loan options.
It's going to verify that.
That's right.
Say okay, and can that be done online, or do they have to come into the office?
No, they could make application online.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have people do that all the time. But I still, even though they do that, I still like to meet with people face to face and review documentation and make sure there's no ambiguity about what they're signing and the numbers. There's no confusion.
Right. Well, and no matter what you say, I mean, real estate has been, always will be a personal business.
Yeah.
I mean, Alfonso, you'll back me up. We talk to people sometimes for 2 or 3 years before we get into a transaction.
And that might be on one phone call, David.
In
my case, really.
But when we sit in the same room, and every business is the same, everything is the same. When you sit in the same room, it changes the entire dynamic of the relationship. It just makes a world of difference. So as usual, we're going to run out of time. So I want to push you. So the next thing. So now I got pre-qualified, and then I got pre-approved. But I'm not done yet, right? So now I'm going to buy this house, and I'm going to
now you have a contract
with Alfonso.
That's right.
Identified the house. He helped me negotiate a great deal. Now what?
Now you will. Well, if you've already applied without the property, right? If you went through the approval process and your file's already been underwritten,
right.
Now we just redisclose certain information, the property, get an appraisal, verify a few other things, and move forward. But in your contract that was written, there's a date in there called a loan commitment date, where that is the date that the lender has to put in writing that you're approved for your loan.
That's part of our contract.
And if you went through the pre-approval process where you provided all your information and your underwriter already has reviewed it and issued a commitment, you already have that loan commitment, just subject to certain things.
So the pre-approval is you sound good.
The pre-qualification is you sound
you're
good.
You're going to make it. And the commitment is, you know what, this house actually qualifies. The loan to value, the appraisal is done.
Right.
And the magical words that when we hear, everybody just takes a big giant sigh of relief. You are clear to close.
Right. So just to recap, a pre-qualification is you're in the ballpark. We're reviewing the information. The pre-approval, you've already applied without a property. We've run you through. You've been approved by an underwriter.
Right.
You have a written approval, and the loan commitment, your contract, the terms of your contract have been fulfilled. We've got your appraisal.
Everything's done. And you're going to close.
Except maybe some minor conditions that the underwriter is conditioned for on commitment date. Very minor at that point.
Right. I mean, there's always
always
verifications.
Yeah.
But the house is approved, the loan is approved, the finances are approved. And, of course, with USA Mortgage, they're always going to show up at closing with the check.